morning. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Jeff McClure. I'm the county supervisor for this area, and a whole bunch of the county. And I brought with me a little team of people from Pinal County. A lot have said, that we, in my position, Board of Supervisors, we don't really run anything. We just give vision and policy and direction. And we have a team that runs the county. And it does take, this is a team effort, and I really appreciate all these people. And, so if I didn't have them, I couldn't do my job. If I didn't have Tricia down here, who now needs to stand up and wave, I couldn't do my job either. She's my district administrator. When you call the office, that's who you get. Give me sometimes, but mostly her. Anyway, so without further ado, let's get this started. Mr. Liu, you are up, sir. Oh, that was me. Oh, there's my slide. I'm supposed to run this thing. I don't follow directions really well. There's him.
Oh, great. Good morning, everybody. Who was here last year? Okay, awesome. Great. A lot of returners, so we weren't too bad. Well, I'll mention, since nobody else is going to talk too much about finances, I'll mention that again, but you've heard it before. Over the past decade, we've reduced the primary property tax from $3.99 to $3.56, and this board has reduced it from $3.75 since you were seated to $3.56. But what I do want to do is thank you for having us every year and for the feedback that you give us, because we take that and we go to work with it, and especially at the lunch that we have with you after this meeting. So one of the things that I'd like to talk about and get some feedback is on something that we talked about at lunch that sounded really important to most of you. Yeah, well, let me do the question first and then do the reveal. How many of you bike on the Huckleberry Loop? Okay, some of you. Pretty nice trail. And do you probably take out to the 77 and go down there, or do you drive and park somewhere? Drive and park. It's pretty far, probably a little dangerous to try to go down the 77. Yeah, unless you're really into it and you're in pretty good shape. Yeah, I do. Okay, I was trying to get rid of this. I'm trying to tell it to snooze for the reboot, but it looks like we've got 24 hours, so we should be okay. Yeah.
Oh.
No, I got you. Yeah. Oh, wait. There we go. Okay. It's old school. It's not a touch screen here on. So how many people would be interested in a connection to the community that would bike down and go south through Catalina and connect over to the down? If you look at your bottom left corner, that's where the Huckleberry Loop is meeting up to Catalina State Park. We've met with Pima County and their Natural Resources and Parks Department, and they were not at first interested in taking that loop and connecting it to the Pinal County line. But if we were to commit to extending it not only to the parts of your community here, but also long-term vision further all the way up to the biosphere, then they're really interested. But you all know this area where I'm talking about, right? So at our bottom left, where the trail exists now, or the loop exists now, we're working with the State Parks Department as well to figure out how would we build it to go through Catalina State Park. Pima County would take it north, all the way up along to Lago del Oro, and we've got to work this out with state land. But then we think it could go up. Then as we go up here, there's the county line where it first is dashed pink and then turns into green, and then head up that way to that trailhead there. It's some French name that you guys probably know what I'm talking about. Charlot. And then state land wants us to come up north and then head east to about that other spot. So we plan to do some focus groups with you to find out what your preferences are and how you could connect to it. But that's a long-term vision that we're working with state land and Pima County and the State Parks Department, try to make that connection. In the meantime, In the shorter term, I know Joe's going to tell you about some of the maintenance on a road that we could put some bike lanes to help at least get you to the 77 safer. So. Is that something of interest that you want us to keep working on and keep pushing forward? Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to share the good news, and I'll pass along to James.
Thanks, Leo. For those of you that were here last year, maybe you remember me. For those of you that weren't, I'm James Smith, the Economic and Workforce Development Director for the county. And things are still looking very bright for the county. So we probably shared a very similar slide with you last year, but I'll just point out a few of the changes. Since we were here last year, LG has actually increased their overall investment in Pinal County. So last year you would have seen numbers around 2,800 jobs and $2.8 billion of investment. Now with their expansions that they're planning, they're now going to hire 3,700 people, and it'll be a total of $5.5 billion of investment. So the change is that they had always planned to do an electric vehicle battery factory there, but now they're planning to also build a factory that will produce utility-grade storage, which is critical for solar in order to keep that energy so that it can be used overnight and such. So that's the key difference there. We continue to see growth related to TSMC. Those of you that might not be familiar, that's a project that's up in North Phoenix. It's one of the largest semiconductor projects in the world, a $40 billion investment, but we're seeing a lot of the supply chain come this way. So you see the CCP project, which is 209 jobs and $400 million of investment in Casa Grande. So still seeing a lot of investment related to the semiconductor industry in Maricopa County. Some of those suppliers are coming to Pinal County. So that CCP project, that has actually broken ground already next to the Kohler facility, which is getting ready to open in Casa Grande. Again, 500 jobs, $376 million. And I would just add, Lucid will have their ribbon cutting for their expansion this week that will complete their newest expansion, bringing them to 2 million square feet of space. So just a few other things that I would just share. Right now, surprisingly, our unemployment rate is a little higher than the states as a whole. Even though we've created 2,000 new jobs in the county in the last year. So that's a little surprising, but our poverty rate is below the state as a whole. So kind of good news on that front. One of the things that is key, I know is critical for county management and our Board of Supervisors is that we want to increase the amount of educational opportunities in the county. We do lag Maricopa and Pinal County, or I'm sorry, Maricopa and Pima County when it comes to overall education. And one of the things I would kind of tell you about that we're excited about is the University of Arizona has made a commitment to their Maricopa Agriculture Center to move that more in line with a regular college campus with dorms and laboratories and the opportunity for business incubators, those kinds of things, and that was made one of the priorities for the president of U of A this year by the Board of Regents. So we're excited about that because it's really going to provide an opportunity, I think, in the future for Pinal County residents to get higher education here in our county and not have to go outside. So here I'll just show you kind of a variation of that. I'll kind of go through this quickly. Won't take a lot of time, but you'll notice in that orange box, again, other than Kohler, those are all companies related to the semiconductor industry. Those are the supply chain that are coming as a result of the TSMC and Intel expansion. So seeing tremendous growth. Another area that I just want to kind of make you aware of is because of the demand for electric vehicles, we're seeing a renaissance of copper mining in Pinal County. So you'll see this Ivanhoe Electric. They bought 6,000 acres in Casa Grande and are planning a brand new copper mine. The Cactus mine that's on the Maricopa-Casa Grande border is also being reignited. For the first time since the mid-'80s, it's been closed. And Resolution, you'll see in the far east part of the state, will be the largest copper mine in the U.S., assuming that it gets its regulatory approval. So we're really seeing that renaissance driven by the electric vehicle transformation as well as solar. So we are really well positioned to have a thriving economy related to electric vehicles and solar applications. So again, I won't spend a lot of time. These are our recent announcements. And again, you see CCP, Kanto, Air Products, Jinghe, NRS, LCY, all are directly related to that growth in the semiconductor industry, primarily in Maricopa County. One of the things that is a strategic goal for the county is to keep more of our workers working here in Pinal County. So it's a goal for us to produce and help create good paying jobs that keep people in Pinal County. Right now, about 80% of our workforce every day leaves the county. And some of those people drive over an hour to their jobs. So we really take this seriously. We believe that it's a quality of life issue. It allows people to spend more time with their families, to participate in the school and all of those kinds of things. So we really are focused on creating jobs in Pinal County that will support our families and the workers. So again, we really want to transform that number and bring that down. There's parts of Pinal County and Santan Valley where it's over 90% of the workers that leave the county, and then in Maricopa it's about 84%, but still overall about 80% of our workforce leaves the county every day to go to work. So just a few of our accomplishments that I wanted to share. Out on the front table you'll see we updated our economic development profile. This really highlights the county. It's the first update we've done in about 5 years. This is used with primarily with real estate brokers, with site selectors to make them aware of the opportunities that are in Pinal County. But there's a lot of great facts and things of interest. If you want to grab a copy of those, we got them out front. We've been working on a feasibility study for Santan Valley. I think I shared with you last year that there's about $1.3 billion that leaves that area of our county every year in terms of retail sales, restaurants. So we really want to provide opportunities for those people to eat, shop in Pinal County, and because it's a tremendous amount of tax revenue that leaves all the time. So we're looking at the possibility of kind of master planning some state trust land. We're working with them to provide opportunities for that retail and restaurants and recreation. We recently joined the Greater Phoenix Economic Council. Really, I think this represents an expansion. We're seeing that Pinal County really is becoming more a part of the Phoenix metro region, whereas in the past, I think there was kind of this dividing line. But you really see it with that semiconductor supply chain, that we are becoming kind of the lifeblood of many of those Phoenix companies. So we think it's a natural that we kind of align with Greater Phoenix Economic Council, and they'll help market our county and provide leads for new businesses. We worked with Pinal Partnership to update a asset map. So we have a digital map that's online that shows our economic development assets. We also produce some larger wall versions of those that have gone to supervisors and management of the county. We did a promotional video that featured all of our communities to make, again, those that are decision makers for businesses aware of the opportunities in our communities. It's about a 6-minute video. If you are interested, it's easy to find. It's on YouTube. just type in Pinal County Opportunity. It'll be the first one that comes up. We're really pleased, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention we have tremendous in-house assets. Our communications department is fantastic. They've helped us with a couple of videos now. We've won awards for several of them, and so really want to give them a shout out. We won recently, our workforce group won a Trailblazer Award related to the efforts of our Workforce Development Board. And then again, we won an award for another video that our communications staff helped us with. The other thing I wanted to share with you is that we have updated our visitors guide. So these are out in front as well. If you want to pick up one of those, it features all the attractions in our various communities. And just lastly, just wanted to share with you some of the things our workforce group does. They help companies find people, and they help people find jobs. That's probably the easiest way to sum it up. But if you do have reason or know anybody that's looking for a job or a company that's looking for people, please reach out to us. No cost services available to anyone. So with that, I'll pass it on to Joe Ortiz. Are we going to wait till the end? Yeah, we'll wait till the end for questions, sorry.
Thank you, James. Quick intro for those that may have been here, may not have been there last year, but my name is Joe Ortiz. I'm with Pinal County Development Services Managing Director. And I'd like to start off with, get rid of that picture, but just a quick big change that just happened in our area, which is the merge of our Public Works Department and our Community Development Departments. Those are two sister departments that work hand in hand and have a lot of overlap, a lot of sync in what they do. From just real quick, some of the stuff that syncs up together is our subdivisions that come in, brand new subdivision requests that come in. It'll work through our zoning side, which is community development, and site plan review, which is community development. Then it finally gets to the point where we have engineering review, civil engineering review of the plans for the road infrastructure. That's the PW side. And eventually those roads will get turned over to Public Works or Pinal County to maintain from that point. So it makes sense just to merge the two, because since there are that connection, it just helps with collaboration, efficiency, gives us some opportunity to get support where that demand is needed. Good example is that Public Works has its admin staff, so did Community Development. We were able to combine those forces just to expand and get some flexibility to where that workload is needed. We can throw staff at it. Same thing with our accounting side. Both sides had accounting. We've combined that. Our GIS we combined, and it's worked out well. What other thing it's done is it's kind of made more of a team concept instead of the two sides. Not that we were fighting behind the scenes in the alley or anything like that, but it gets that mindset of you as a customer really don't care if we're community development or public works. You're just there to get a permit, or you're there to get a pothole done. So us in the backside, that's where we need to work as that team to make sure some of that's fulfilled. And one of the other things that came of this was some new hours. Previously we had hours Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. By doing this here recently, January 8th recently, we expanded our hours an hour before and an hour after, but it's Monday through Thursday only. But what it does is it allows that extra hour before, when people are going to work, before they get to work, to jump in and drop off plans or put an application for a permit, or whenever they're coming back from work, it gives them some more opportunity to also have that office face time. So I've been asked to talk about the public works side. I'll take care of that. I think Brent here will follow up with the community development side. But first off, I'd like to talk about some of the accomplishments that have happened here recently. So hopefully you can see that okay. We had approximately 15 miles of road construction, another 4 miles of road pavement rehabilitation. Road construction is full remove and replace. Rehabilitation is one of our higher ends of, it's more than just pavement preservation. Basically, it's more like a mill off the top layer, come back with AC or come back with a slurry. That's what the difference between those two, just for clarification. Pavement preservation, on the other hand, is 70.43 miles. That's strictly a topical application of a slurry, a chip seal, a fog seal, some crack seal, things like that. And I put a dollar here. It's $2.6 million that were spent on pavement preservation alone in just District 4. And that four-letter acronym, TIMP, Transportation Improvement Maintenance Program, that's supported through our, let me turn my sheet here to get on the same page with you guys. That's supported through our maintenance and transportation improvement funds. And I believe Tara and Dedrick are going to be diving into more detail of that, but I just want to make the connection of what they're talking about goes directly into some of these TIMP program type roads or projects. I won't dive into all of them, but there's a few that hit home for you folks. There's the Edwin Road pavement rehabilitation, SaddleBrooke intersection, SaddleBrooke Boulevard crosswalks, Lago del Oro pavement preservation, Catalina Hills pavement preservation, Edwin Road pavement preservation. And as you can see, the Edwin and Parklink, Lago del Oro, Catalina, Edwin, those are all TIMP related type projects. So you know where that dollar's going. Good question. But it's coming up on the next slide. I'll jump on that one real quick. Next one is just District 4 in progress type projects. Those other ones were actually completed. These are the ones that are kind of still out there. They're in some form or phase of finish, and that being some construction projects, 3.5. There's some airport projects. There's 5 of those. Drainage projects, 1, for a total of 19.7, almost $19.8 million worth. And some of those projects, mainly the big ones are the Pinal Airport, some runway stuff. That's where the big ticket dollars are coming from. But back to the $1 million question, SaddleBrooke Boulevard. So yeah, some of these projects here that are goals is some road construction miles, the 7.5, and SaddleBrooke Boulevard is one of those. Pavement rehabilitation, another 7.5. Some pavement preservation still to happen in 24, probably about 80 miles we're trying to shoot for, and some more airport. So down to the dotted bullets there, question asked, what about SaddleBrooke Boulevard? Yeah, we have plans for SaddleBrooke Boulevard, some pavement rehabilitation. That's back to where I'm talking about, where we'll mill off the first top 3 inches and then come back with 3 inches of hot mix asphalt. And that's broken up into a couple phases for SaddleBrooke. There's the first phase that's going to happen somewhat immediately here. That's from, I believe, Border to Catalina Hills. Hopefully those sound familiar. That's it, market to the taco stand. You got it. So that's the first phase, and that's going to happen, and we want to make sure we get that complete before the end of our fiscal year, which is June 30th. So right now we're in the works of developing the scope of work and getting some cost estimates from our contractors to make that happen. And then the next phase is continuing that from SaddleBrooke, on SaddleBrooke Boulevard, from Catalina and going all the way to State Route 77. And that's going to be similar scope of work. I don't know if you need to know, but I'm a technical guy here. So really, that's more of a mill and ultra-thin overlay, 1.5 inch. But anyways, in that project, we are also getting a scope of work to hopefully widen it out so we can add some bike lanes that Leo alluded to earlier. So that's our game plan on that. And that should happen pretty much right after the fiscal year starts. That's our strategy, is to have one complete and then the other one pick up right back after it whenever that funding source becomes available in that new fiscal year, July 1. And then a third component of that might be of interest is the Eagle Crest Boulevard pavement rehabilitation. That's all of Eagle Crest Boulevard from SaddleBrooke to Edwin Road, I believe. So that will happen immediately after the SaddleBrooke project's complete. So reality is we like to get that one back to back to back. So by the end of that fiscal year, all 3 phases will be done.
Or forever road construction, that's how we do it.
Yeah, right. And as you can see, I'd like to tie it back to the segue for Dedrick and Tara. The SaddleBrooke Boulevard project and the Eagle Crest Boulevard project, both are TIMP-related type projects. So that's where that funding source comes from, is to support these type of projects. And with that, I'm done. I guess I'll be around for questions if there are questions.
We'll do questions at the end.
Okay. All right. I'll turn it over to Brent for the community development side.
For those of you that aren't familiar, he was talking about the Pinal Air Park, which is the Plain Cemetery along I-10. That's part of my district as well. I go all the way to Arizona City, which is just over by I-10 and I-8 where they intersect. The south of that, that's the western side of my district. Come all the way back across here to Mammoth, go up around, and then over by Arizona City, I go around Eloy and Coolidge and go up to downtown Florence and up into Santan Valley. So the district is quite broad.
Good morning. My name's Brent, and I'm very happy to be in front of you today. It truly is an exciting time to be in Pinal County, and you hear that from the presentations that have been provided and will continue to be provided by this panel today, and probably highlighted some additionally in the questions that will be responded to at the end. Community development, and I talked about this a little bit last year, has to do with true development, both commercial, residential, industrial, from cradle to grave. Goes through this department, and I would be remiss if I didn't say that we can't be successful and have the success that we're having without the assistance of everyone that sits at this table, as well as all the county staff. And sometimes the most important part is the folks that are forgotten as part of that statement, which is all the residents of Pinal County that are engaged, involved in these projects, come to our public meetings, provide comment, advocate for and or oppose projects so that we can come up with better, more organized development in the county. A lot of what you heard from me last year is going to be replicated in this year's presentation, and that is we are very busy. Pinal County is a focus of growth and quality growth in all sectors in Arizona and in the West at this time. What does that mean? Pinal County, last year we processed over 3,000 single-family building permits. That equates to around 8,600 people. That's a lot of growth as compared to other parts of the state. When it comes to commercial development, because we constantly are getting questions from folks about when are we going to get more restaurants, when are we going to get more services, office complexes, et cetera. We've been very busy from that standpoint as well by processing 102 different commercial site plans over the last year. The police power and the real land control associated with what we do has to do with zoning of land, and that's what can be built and the confines within that development occurs, and those happen through zoning cases. We processed 53, it says 52 here, but I believe it was 53 zoning cases last year. That's new development coming online to add additional improvements to Pinal County in terms of that growth. 5 major and 16 minor comprehensive plan amendments processed, and then we've had a very active year from the Board of Adjustment as well. When we talk about accomplishments with respect to community development, I'd mentioned before the over 3,000 permits. What does that mean statewide? That means we were the second fastest growing by new permit governmental entity in Arizona. Twice as much as Maricopa County, 3 times as much as Pima County. So Pinal County is very busy, and there's a whole lot going on in Pinal County. In this case, has to do with residential growth. One of the things that Joe spoke to a second ago that I wanted to highlight is we use computerized systems to be more effective and efficient in what we do. The program that we use to track these things in multiple departments across the county is called Assessor. We were one of the initial adopters of Assessor. We've had it for about 18 years, but our system, as it's constructed, has grown a little long in the tooth. So we've been working very hard over the last year, and thank you to the supervisor and the other supervisors to give us the funding to upgrade that software and that protocol, if you will, if you come to apply for a permit or an application of any time, to make that more customer-friendly, efficient, and to provide information, more information to the customer. We call it a premium customer experience. We're in the middle of that now, and we hope that we're able to do the upgrade and the transition to this new updated platform in about the April time frame of this year. One of the things that we've heard, I know that the supervisor has heard, is we need more office hours at Mammoth. So we now are open additional days a week and for longer hours. When I first came on at the county, the Mammoth office wasn't even open. So we're happy that we've been able to extend those hours. Code compliance complaints can now be submitted online. One of the things that has been a continuous issue for the county for the last couple decades is old county subdivisions that were approved under old codes that are no longer legal under today's codes, and they typically are processed through variances at the Board of Adjustment. One of the things that Leo and the finance team has allowed is some funding for our department to where we can go out and actually do blanket approvals for these old subdivisions to bring them up to code and allow development to occur. We've processed 6 of them in this last year, including communities like Randolph and hundreds of lots in the Arizona City areas. At the same time, we've improved our process. Manufactured homes are online. We have a new BWAP process. And one of the things that's most impactful to me is we created an addressing division to deal with addressing directly. I'm going to be really brief on this slide. Joe covered most of it. Combining the divisions, providing additional resources, and working on foundational documents, including our zoning code update, are things to look forward to in the next year. BWAP stands for Built Without a Permit. So if any of you have ever got a code compliance complaint on your property that you have a shed that wasn't properly permitted or an accessory building that wasn't permitted, that's a long process that's usually involved from the legal standpoint. We've come up with a way to help mitigate for some of those issues with having to go through that legal process. Last thing I'll add is we're also working on a major zoning application with SaddleBrooke Ranch, and I wanted to include that here. That is in process now. With that, I will turn it over to Dedrick.
Thank you, Brent. My name is Dedrick Denton. I am the Transportation Planning Supervisor for Pinal County, and then I'll also have Tara Harmon. She's a Senior Planner, and she's going to assist me with today's presentation. I'm pleased to provide an update on the Transportation Maintenance and Improvement Fund. We're going to have a little discussion on the historical background of the fund, the financial status, the projects that it has accomplished, and also our goals for the fund. Our road and maintenance and repair is funded through 3 different sources. Our first one is the vehicle license fund. This fund is a revenue source that comes from our vehicle registration. Next is our highway user revenue fund. This revenue source comes from the gasoline tax, and the last time that tax was increased was back in 1990. And then lastly, we have our half-cent excise tax, and this is the county's sales tax, and it's collected by the Arizona Department of Revenue and sent to the county for distribution amongst our municipalities within the county. And this is our main source that funds our transportation improvement and maintenance program that Joe had mentioned earlier. Some of our cities, just to give you have a little note down at the bottom, property taxes do not pay for roads in the county, in the unincorporated areas of the county, but just want to make a clarification that some cities may impose a property tax, but the county doesn't. A brief history on the half-cent excise tax. We've been collecting it for nearly 40 years. It originally passed in 1986. At that time, our population was around 100,000. The tax passed by 51%, and then that sunsetted back in December 31st, 2006. The county renewed it back in 2005. At that time, our population was 235,000. And then our voters approved it by 73%, and then that one's due to sunset in December 31st, 2026. And I just want to mention that this is not the same as Proposition 417 or Proposition 469. Those 2 propositions deals with the Pinal Regional Transportation Authority. The Maintenance and Improvement Fund supports the maintenance, preservation, and repairs of our roadway. It also supports the county's transportation improvement and maintenance program, which Tara will speak about a little later. The revenues generated by this fund is shared between the unincorporated parts of the county and then also with our 10 municipalities. The distribution of the revenue is a populated-based formula, and it helps pay for our local projects. The fund is used for a variety of purposes, from road repairs to repairing our potholes to intersection improvements, but we do use it heavily for preservation and maintenance. Now we have 4 funding goals. One is to improve public safety. With that, you think about making sure that our roads are well connected, so we can try to get those emergency response times down. Secondly is managing growth, and with here we're looking at trying to reduce congestion and improve our quality of life, and then also protecting our taxpayers. It's a lot cheaper to maintain and preserve our roads than to do a total reconstruction of our roadways. And then third, and then fourthly, is air quality. And we have a few areas in the county that's in a non-attainment area. The EPA does mandate us to do certain things, so we use this fund to help pave over dirt roads to reduce the airborne dust pollution within those non-attainment areas. So back in fiscal year 23-24, we collected a little bit over 15 million, and that probably equates to about 2.9 million per month. And then in 22 and 23, we collected over 35 million, and then was kind of averaging about 3 million per month. And this is a distribution of the funds. The county receives about 49%, 13% goes to the city of Casa Grande, 12% goes to the city of Maricopa, but as our municipalities are growing, these numbers be shifting. I believe the city of Maricopa has about 70,000, so they'll probably take over as the next largest share of the pie. And then with that, I'm gonna hand it over to Tara. She's gonna talk about the pavement preservation and then also our TAP.
Thank you, Dedrick. Good morning. You'll notice up on the slide here, in fiscal year 22-23, we spent a total of roughly $7.7 million for pavement preservation projects. Of that $7.7 million, $7 million even was allocated from the maintenance fund. So you can see how important that is to preservation within the roadways throughout the county. Of that $7 million, we paved or preserved 404 lane miles. Our projected expenditure for 23-24 is over $9 million, and we expect it to increase every year as we keep adding to the maintenance system and the cost of materials increasing. This slide represents a brief illustration of the projects that have been funded by the maintenance fund, allowing us to pave and preserve almost 900 miles of roads since 2011. Of those 900 miles, a few examples are this one, Park Link Drive, that happens to be within District 4 also. It was completed in 2006 for a total of 18 miles at a cost of $1.5 million. Of the $1.5 million, 950,000 came from our maintenance fund. Also, near and dear to you, Edwin Road here, completed in 2009. It improved our safety, and we paved and widened it and did a little bit of drainage work along with that, totaling $2.3 million. And out of that $2.3 million, 784,000 came from the maintenance fund. We're going to move on to our Transportation Improvement and Maintenance Fund. This is the Transportation Advisory Committee. They are a body of citizens that are appointed by your supervisor. So each supervisor will appoint 2 members from their district area to create a balance throughout the county of representation. They are tasked with evaluating and priority ranking the eligible proposed projects that are submitted by you, the citizens, for the Transportation Improvement Maintenance Program. I'll let Dedrick recap.
Yep, just a short recap. The total population of Pinal County currently sits at 467,000. The fund does expire on December 31st, 2026. And between June to December of 2023, we have been working with our consultant, High Ground. They're helping us with the public awareness campaign. From January to March of 2024, we're going to be doing some public outreach and community feedback. And then from April to May of 2024, we're going to do a potential renewal discussion. And then from June to November 2024 is the potential election information. And then election day is November 5th, 2024. So what would happen if our fund expired? We currently receive around $35 million a year to support our roads in the county, and that amount still is not enough to support all our maintenance and preservation projects due to the cost of material. If that money disappeared, then our transportation system in the county would be severely impacted. And then this is a good example of what happens when we don't have enough funds to support our roadways. The street starts to deteriorate. And with that, we'll have Mr. Wolf come up. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this wonderful morning in SaddleBrooke. It's a great day in Arizona, a great day in Pinal County, and you get to see the really movers and shakers here in Pinal this morning. So welcome. I am Douglas Wolf, your county assessor. I just want to start out by saying this is my 42nd anniversary today. My lovely wife Gloria is here in the crowd taking pictures. Shows that patience will endure, right? Okay. So I was elected in 2012 and the county was pretty much broke. Leo will remember that Greg Stanley was telling us he was worried about making payroll in September of that year. And, we were at the depths of the depression in real estate in Pinal County particularly. And, it's a cycle, and we had gone up through a real bubble, 2007, 2008. And I lived in Johnson Ranch, and a third of the properties there went through foreclosure, about 4,000 houses or something like that. It was unbelievable. So we were patient, and the county had elected a new board of supervisors, 4 Republicans and 1 Democrat, and they jointly said we can't rely on just homeowners, taxes, and a little bit of ag revenue to fund the county. We have to aggressively bring in business. And everybody was on board with that, and as a county group of all the elected officials, the board is most responsible for it. We had a great economic developer, a guy named Tim Knable was our representative, and boom, we raised the level of awareness of Pinal County, and as you can see in the last decade, things have really changed. Now, SaddleBrooke is growing too, as you know, SaddleBrooke Ranch, we're putting on, I have to have a full-time appraiser down there every day just to add new houses to the tax roll. They're building them so fast down there. So we're in the middle of a heck of a growth spurt. Let's see if I can get this to work. Okay, so the growth spurt. When I started in 2012, I think we did about 25 subdivisions that we processed for new houses. And last year, we hit the all-time record for Pinal County of 116 subdivisions. And that means, a couple thousand houses each, usually, in most of those subdivisions. And when that ties in directly to our transportation cost needs. We're a growing county, and we have to provide the arterials and the transport mechanisms so people can get to work and shop and do the things they need to do. So 116 is a record. I don't anticipate setting another record next year, but you never know. I thought last year was going to be the record, was 97 or 98. So anyway, we also put on 7,000 new parcels to the tax roll, and it's just, it's just amazing to watch what's happening. Even as the rest of the country may slow down, Pinal County is not only the place for people to retire to, like SaddleBrooke, but also to build their businesses along the Costa Grande corridor, Santan Valley, and all those places. And that's all thanks to our leadership of our county board of supervisors saying, this is what we're going to do, this is the way we're taking the county, and it's worked. So the overall will be that our tax rates for our homeowners will come down as we get more business tax revenue. Salaries, business property tax, and all those sorts of things, you can offset how much you need to charge the homeowners, and which is exactly was the goal 10 years ago. A couple other things that would really be great for Pinal County is the Superior Mine up in Superior. It's called Resolution Copper. We had it all ready. The trigger was ready to pull at the end of Donald Trump's term. And when Mr. Biden came in, they decided to put another EPA review on that mine. And it's pretty much, I don't know if it's dead in the water or where it is, but still under EPA review. There's some estimates that would double our tax base from the business side for Pinal County. It would be a huge windfall. Now, copper mines are taxed at the state level, but then they share the revenues back with the counties. So anything we could do, everybody wants electric cars. There's a large, get away from fossil fuels. Okay, you have to have copper. There's just no other way around it. And so we have to do anything you can, talk to your state representatives or your federal representatives, say we should get this mine going. So that's my political pitch today, and I'd really like to have it for the county. It'd be a great thing. A couple things are going on here. Senior Village Project. We're going to build a building down here, and that eventually will come through some of the departments represented here. Dana's going to talk about registering your home to prevent property title fraud. And I don't want to steal your thunder, so she'll tell you how to do that. I know a lot of people in SaddleBrooke have already done it, so that's great. That helps so people try to put, liens on your house and you don't know about it. We got a plan in place, but you have to do the registration. As far as March 1st comes around, that'll be our notice of values will come out. Those will be for 2025. So if you don't like what you see when you get your notice of value, the only thing you need to focus on is your limited property value. And look at that. If it looks right, you're good. It can only go up 5% a year by law. Not the taxes, but the valuation. So just take a close look at it, and if there's a problem, let us know. Our office is always willing to say, oh, we made a mistake, which we sometimes do. But that'll be out about the 1st of March. And finally, what we're trying to do at the state legislature this year, the assessors, we passed some really great bills to help disabled veterans get an exemption from property tax statewide. We want to raise the exemption levels for people who are at the poorer end of the spectrum, mainly because inflation has really hurt those folks. And the exemptions don't adjust up fast enough to help, so that at least they can get a little bit of relief on their property taxes at the lower end. So we're trying to get that passed. And we're continuing the expansion to lower homeowner taxes, as we talked about a little bit earlier. So that's my presentation for this morning, and now I'm going to turn it over to Dana Lewis, our erstwhile recorder. Or is that the wrong word? Not erstwhile, our continuing recorder.
Enter. Good morning. I am Dana Lewis, the Pinal County Recorder, appointed in 2022, and doing some pretty awesome stuff in Pinal County. So for those of you who don't know, in 2023 they put the Elections Department under the purview of the Recorder's Office again. In that doing so in the last year and a half, we've done improvements in our documentation, not only to create more succinct processes with our chain of custody, but also a more detailed audit process. Some of the other things with our, yes, oh, thanks. Hi. Our procedures are more in depth than they've ever been before. We traveled all across the state helping other election officials with their processes. Some of the other highlights in the Recorder's Office, our recordings are down 30%. That's not a bad thing. It typically means that people are holding on to their homes. The Office of the Recorder has met all statutory guidelines. What does that mean? In Arizona, we are structured by Constitution, then statute, elections procedure manuals, and then our internal policies and procedures. We've met all of that. One of the highlights would be, of course, in November we had a jurisdictional election, and that went flawlessly. All mail elections can sometimes be tedious, but we would say that there was success there. And then we did do a review of how we design our ballots, and we can say that now with our proofing binders, there won't be some of the errors that we saw in the past. Additionally, for voters in District 4, I would like to kind of tout the fact that you are the bar, folks, because voter turnout in District 4 is the highest in all of the county. So when I go out to these meetings across the county, I let them know that you hold the bar here. Typically, your voter turnout is at about 87%. So I use you as the challenge and ask voters to, step up to the plate and make sure they turn out and have a plan to vote. The other thing is we are going to have a new building in 2024. For those of you who don't know, the Board of Supervisors did come to the plate and accept the challenge to get us the space and the people that we needed to be effective in our processes. We're hoping to take possession of that building in June. So Supervisor McClure said we will take possession of that building in June, which is really important because even though the presidential preference election is going to be in May or in March, those elections typically tend to be smaller elections. We're only going to be dealing with about 100,000 plus voters because it's only the Republican and Democratic that are participating in the PPE. However, for the primary election, those are the tough ones. And the more space I have and the full staff we have, the better chances we have for success. The other thing we'll talk about is the recorder notification system. For those of you who don't know, that Pinal County was one of the the benchmarks across the state, us and Yavapai County had created this program. It allows us to inform for people who have opted in at no charge to our systems to be alerted in the event that somebody records a document against your property or in your name. So it's one of the ways that you can safeguard yourself. How many people have heard of the Credit Karma, the Records Lock, any of these systems? Well, those are all that you pay for. This system is opt-in only, and it is at no charge to you. And you'll actually receive a notification via email within 2 minutes of a record being recorded in your name or against your property. This allows you to act aggressively in getting in touch with an attorney, segue, and then let you know what you need to do to safeguard your property so it doesn't get buried in other litigation. I'll answer questions at the end along with everyone else. Thank you for being part of our processes in Pinal County when it comes to not only recording, but also in our elections. We're always recruiting for poll workers, election cycle temps, and of course staff. So if those of you are ready to get out of retirement because it's boring, please reach out and talk to me because I'd love to have you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kent Volkmer. I'm your Pinal County attorney. I'm the last person to do a presentation before you get a chance to ask questions, so I'll try and go relatively quick. I want to talk about some lowlights from last year, some highlights from last year, and then what we can expect kind of moving into 2024. So I'm going to start with the most positive. We are the safest large county in the state by a long shot. So most of the people in this room actually have, quote, a Tucson address. Thank goodness you don't live in Pima County. If you live in Pima County, you're about 4 times as likely as a Pinal County resident to be a victim of a serious crime. It's about twice as likely, 2.5 times likely to be a victim of any sort of crime. We have a robust diversion program that we continue to expand on. We had 600 people complete it. Just to give you a quick idea, diversion, all of us have, maybe it was you, maybe it was your kid, maybe it was your brother, your sister, your nephew. Good kid did something stupid, got caught doing something stupid, really needed a kick in the pants, not to be branded a criminal for the rest of their life. Diversion are for those people. We give them opportunity to do some consequences, they complete the consequences, and they get to move on without having that criminal record hanging over their head for the rest of their lives. Last year, we saw, actually for 2 consecutive years, we saw an almost doubling of DUIs occurring in our community. So if you went from 21 to 22, actually from 20 to 21 there was a doubling, from 21 to 22 there was a doubling. About 10% of all felonies in our county are felony DUI. So we really started a DUI campaign last year. Now unfortunately we didn't see a decrease, but at least leveled off, and there was really no statistical difference year over year. So at least we've sort of stymied it. Now we're focusing on trying to reduce it. And then we also focused on our public education. If you've never attended, I would highly encourage you to attend one of our Citizens Academies. We have 4 a year. It is really kind of peeling the Band-Aid off the criminal justice system. I will tell you, I'm critical of prosecutors, I'm critical of prison. I give you a really, hey, this isn't what CSI tells you, this isn't what Law and Order tells you. This is the real kind of way sausage is made when it comes to the criminal justice system. We also have our CSI event specifically for kids to try and get them interested. So we take, generally it's 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th grade students, and for a full week, we actually mock a crime scene, and they have to process the crime scene. And then there's actually a court hearing afterwards, and they prosecute the case, and it's been really well received. We do resource fairs, fraud presentations, shred events, crime victim DV awareness. We really try and get out in the public and let everybody know what's going on. I'm going to talk about the lowlights real quick. Crime has increased again. It's about 8%. Our population increased by 3 or 4%. Our crime increased by 8%. So that's not a good thing. There's no 2 ways to get around that. The most concerning, at least from my perspective, is the majority of the increase in crime is actually being committed by juveniles and young adults. So I tend to call them kids, and we're talking those that are 21 and younger. So if you look 5 years ago, we didn't have any felony adult charges for kids with guns. Now they're making up about 50% of those cases. Those kids 21 and under are committing about 62% of all burglaries. They're committing 40% of homicides. This is a troubling trend that we're working on. Finally, drugs. That is the biggest issue in our community. It has been. Our proximity to the border, along with other issues. 60% of all fentanyl pills in the United States come through our deserts. So I'm going to say that again so you can just take a second to chew on that. 60% of every one of those illicit fentanyl pills that are poisoning our community, 60% come through our Arizona deserts. So obviously we have a disproportionate amount of those because unfortunately some of those stay here. About 85% of all crime can be tied to substance use and alcohol use and the crimes that are associated with it. This is my last slide, try and leave you on a positive. We are going to focus on youth engagement. I told you that's the problem. We've already met with our presiding judge. We're working with juvenile probation to actually get into the schools. We've met with law enforcement where we're going to really start being much more proactive about some of these parties and kids carrying guns. In the state of Arizona, a child under 18 cannot carry a gun. Historically, we've been a very pro-Second Amendment state, so we've had a tendency to maybe, I wouldn't say turn a blind eye, but not actively search for it. We can't do that. Unfortunately, we've got kids that are losing their lives because 15, 16, 17-year-old kids make dumb decisions. 15, 16, 17-year-old kids with alcohol in their system make really, really dumb decisions. 15, 16, 17-year-old kids with alcohol in their decision or alcohol in their system and a gun on their hip take people's lives. And that's what we have to stop. So there's a concerted effort amongst our law enforcement community to address that. We are doing an HOA meeting. I don't know if she's still here. There's a young lady up at the corner said, I really wish the county was more involved. Sometimes we feel like we're in no man's land here in SaddleBrooke. You know, most of our stuff is Tucson related, and it seems like the county doesn't always do enough for us. I know Jeff does everything he can. The rest of us are in Florence. One of the things that we want to do is start really kind of going to the HOA level and having meetings just to answer your questions from our office's perspective. Give us an opportunity to sit down and have a much more intimate conversation. This is great, but some of you aren't going to ask the question because you don't want 75 other people to hear you ask your question. But in a much more, intimate setting, you may be willing to have those conversations and hopefully have those important conversations. I'd also tell you to look out. We're doing an informative podcast. So we're going to do kind of general principles of law and then also a kind of a sexy case, if you will, a high publicity case that got a lot of information or a lot of publicity. So we're going to be putting them out twice a week. They're usually going to be 15 or 20 minutes. If you're bored sometime, you can listen, and it'll hopefully be interesting and give you some education. And then finally, we are going to focus on community education engagement. Our commitment is to make Pinal County a better, safer, stronger place. That's what we want to do, and this is our attempt to get there. And with that, I am going to actually walk down the crowd. So we do have 2 microphones down in front if you want to come down. If those of you that don't want to walk down, I will be walking around with a mic in hand, and I think all of us are able to answer any questions, and we'll let Jeff go ahead and wrap up.
We'll go to questions in a minute. Thank you, Mr. Volkmer. So, pretty good? Good? Thank you. Now, and Joe alluded to it, that we're growing. Everybody's talked about we're growing. We expect in the next 12 to 15 years, you saw those slides back up there. There's one where it was 100,000 people and 235,000, now 460-something. We expect to be over 1 million people in the next 12 to 15 years in the county. So for us, looking forward for planning, we look at the road tax, we look at all those things. Everybody says, 5 or 10 years. We're looking 20 and 40 years out to see what we need to do for that growth. So that's a fun part. You get to look way out and kind of prognosticate. We've done a lot with staff this last year. Joe alluded to that. In HR, we've done market rate adjustments and pay scales. We were losing a lot of people. We'd get some people hired, and they'd stay for a year or 2, and they go, I can make more money over there, and they'd leave. Then we spend our time retraining people. So we quit looking at comparators, which is like other counties. Hi, Roger. Comparators, and we started looking at competitors, which are all the people in the East Valley of Phoenix. And so we started looking at, what do different people make? Well, we need to raise our pay scale so that we can keep these people and keep some historical knowledge in the county. Otherwise, we just got new people all the time. In doing so, we found that we had an increase of about 3 to 4% in our qualified applicants to the county, and people are staying longer, and our turnover rate is starting to dwindle, which is really exciting. So that's better for you because that saves tax dollars in training. As we grow, of course, they said that we'll be able to lower the tax rate. over time because we have a lot of things going on. We've been playing catch up constantly on capital improvement projects in the county, and we're working to fix that. Dana talked about the new election building. That's one of the processes. Medical examiner. The mystery lady here. This lady right here, Kathy Whalen. She's our newest deputy county administrator, and she's in public defense. You want to say anything, Kathy? No, you're good? And this is an attorney that does not want to talk. This is great. So, yeah, we did get them a new building.
Hey now.
Hey, you're a politician, though. She's not, right? Okay. So, anyway, so I will, first of all, thank you all for coming out. I really appreciate it. And we'll turn it over to questions. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, right there in front.
Question for Leo Luke.
You'll have to turn the mic on.
Lou. Yes.
Right. Hi, I'm Ken. So relative to the Huckleberry Loop, the impact on Lago del Oro, can you tell me more about that? Because it's really a narrow road, and when there are bicyclists on it, it creates a very critical safety problem. More bicyclists on it, the higher the probability of a bike-car incident.
Yeah. Thank you, sir, for the question. Wish our county engineer was here because he's been on the ground, looking at some of the designs. But, and I know I've been on different sections of the Huckleberry Loop, but I imagine it would be similar to where it's going to be separated from the road, and it'll have the divided lanes, and if needed, the rails. So that's the whole goal of it, that you bike in the beauty of nature without worrying about interactions with cars. Of course, if there's any crossings, those will be marked and lighted and managed. So it should be separate. And Joe probably knows more.
Correct. It won't be in that right-of-way, roadway, it'll be a separate right-of-way.
If you couldn't hear him, he said it wouldn't be in the roadway, it'd be a separate bike easement to the side. That's what Joe was saying, he didn't have a mic.
We have a question over here on the right, or left, depends, stage right.
Again, thank you for making time in your schedule to come visit us here at SaddleBrooke. I appreciate that a lot. Heard a lot of great things. I have one question I would like to pose to y'all. We've got some great news about the new interstate expansion up in the northern part of, Pinal County area. And as a frequent driver to Phoenix using the back route 79 and across through Florence and then up and then hitting up there on Queen Creek and 87. Is there opportunity to improve transportation through there? Not just because it's tough now, but with the expansion of the interstate, people are going to be finding new ways to get where they need to go. And that area is going to be much more congested, and I feel like possibly accidents and that kind of thing. So I ask you to consider that if you haven't already. So.
That's part of the Pinal Regional Transportation Authority, and we're looking at roadways looping in with Phoenix. We have to kind of coordinate all that, but looping in so we can move people around and getting better east-west, north-south transit. Joe can talk to that.
Correct. And part of that, yeah, hopefully that'll be the funding sources of PRTA stuff, and specifically funding source for what we're calling a Central Arizona Parkway that will connect basically from Arizona Farms. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Arizona Farms Attaway, in that ballparkish area, heading north, and it'll hopefully connect northerly to State Route 24. We'll extend 24 from where it is today at Ironwood, easterly for 2 miles. So we'll make that east connection and then south. That's the hope.
And eventually 24 over to the 60, so we can make a truck route through there and move people down and move them out.
sorry about that. Yeah, that is correct.
Are you familiar with those roads? So we are working on a regional transportation plan, and that's something that we've needed for a lot of years, and it's fallen in the background, but we are working on that. Other questions? Oh, sure, I'm sorry. Right in front.
So given that we have essentially a phantom shopping center at SaddleBrooke Boulevard and Oracle, and it's turned into a huge eyesore.
Soccer fields.
That'd be great.
Pickleball court.
That'd be good too. I don't really care what they put there as long as they do something with it. But to add to that question, most of us who live in SaddleBrooke Ranch or SaddleBrooke go to Pima County to shop.
Correct.
And so the sales tax that we pay goes to Pima County. Is there any way for Pinal County to recover any of that?
Not really. No. Not down here. I would give you that's a difficult situation in this corner of the county. The shopping center was supposed to go in like a year and a half ago. They had it all written. No. I know. Hey, I've lived here, 14 years now? I know. It's like, I look at it. Trust me. I live above it. I look down at it like, what is that? So, but I talked with them last year or a year and a half ago, and they said, oh yeah, it's ready to go. And then when prices all went crazy after COVID, then they couldn't nail down numbers. So one good side of that is that Fry's has not sold off their interest in that particular development, and that's a good sign. I haven't talked with them for about 6 months, so I probably need to catch up on that again. If I find something out, it'll come out in my newsletter. If you haven't signed up for that, BOS District 4 at Gmail, and all right, I'm sorry, not at Gmail. BOS District 4 at pinal.gov, and that will. Trish will get a hold of you and she'll hook you up in our newsletter. We'll let you know. Any other questions?
Right here, over here.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah, I've got a question on developers. As far as a lot of times developers, whether business or homes, big areas of homes, do they pay for the infrastructure such as roads, lights, or whatever when they impact the area with big housing developments or businesses, or is it just passed on to the taxpayers?
Impact fees, who wants to take
Correct. Yeah, there are impact fees assessed to that development specifically for what their impacts are to that localized area. So they do contribute to an impact fee. Some will also contribute to some actual road construction as part of their development. So sometimes, most of the time, it's both. We'd like to get both because they do not only impact what's in front of their development, but they impact that whole network. So that's why it's both.
For you, is it catch and release here, or is it basically arresting these people and holding them accountable?
So that's a fair question. It's kind of weird to talk this loud, being this close to each other. But so what our office really tries to do is make a difference between, is this a dangerous person or is this a person that did something stupid? If it's a dangerous person, we put them in prison. So what you'll see if you look historically at our office, we put bad, dangerous people in prison for longer than most other counties, but we put more people on probation. And what we know is if we go to prison, it's about an 85% recidivism rate. It's actually within 9 years, 83%. So 5 out of every 6 people will come out, will commit another offense. So if we can safely keep you in the community, we'll do it. If not, then we'll put you in prison. So if we can't safely have somebody in our community and they cannot stop committing offenses, then we put them in prison. Prison is for those people that can't live with us. It's not necessarily for people that made a bad decision, but if you're a danger, if you continually violate the rights of others, if you continually get drunk and get behind the wheel, if you continually get in fights, even though they are lower level offenses, if you can't safely be a member of our community, then our position is I have no choice but to put you in prison. It's an individual case that we work with law enforcement and the community as a whole. So I just met with the entire head department of AJ yesterday, and they said, look, we've got a guy, he's got a couple stupid shoplifts, but he's a problem, and this is all the stuff that we have. So we're working collectively to try and hold that person accountable. You know, the justice system, it's not a one-size-fits-all. We have to look at individual cases. We look at the offense that was committed and the overall impact it has on the community. I don't care so much about what the actual offense is as I do the impact on the community and the danger that you pose to our community, and that's where our focus is at. If the guy you described that continually shoplifts, it makes everybody else's life more difficult. It wastes our law enforcement's resources, and at some point, he just can't stay with us, so we will put them in prison to see if we can change their behavior. And that's really the philosophy that we've had for the last 8 years, and we've actually seen overall a reduction in crime. Now, the last 2 years there has been a slight uptick, but we were actually at, on a per 10,000 basis, per 10,000 resident capita, we were actually at the lowest crime rate that we've seen since the 70s. So we were in a good spot, and now we've got these kids coming up, and now we're changing to try and figure out how do we best handle violent juvenile offenders. Absolutely. I know we got a question down here, Supervisor.
Sure. Oh, for the sales tax, buy online. We get that tax.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for being here and leading Pinal County going forward. So my question is about roads, specifically HOA 2 roads. If management ever was interested in pursuing giving our roads back to Pinal County, is there a potential path forward in that?
Mr. Ortiz.
Potentially. I think there's a lot of things that would have to be investigated and researched out. A lot of those roads they are private, and when they were built, we didn't necessarily require them to be built to a county standard. So they may or may not have been built to a county standard. That's one of the big things we want to look at when we accept those. That's one of our biggest requirements. But they're in theory, yeah, potentially. But there's a lot of hurdles that we would have to go through to make that happen. It's not a no, but I hate to sound like an attorney, but not a no, not a yes.
Yeah.
He's learning from Kent Volkmer how to say
Sorry,
that.
Kent.
Yeah, this came up about 5 years ago in a board meeting, and there was 2 old-timers here, and we started talking on the way out. And basically, that's what they said. They said that the width of the roads are not up to standards to Pinal County. And so I guess that's a pretty tough hurdle.
Correct. That would be a tough hurdle.
Okay, thank you.
Another question. Over somebody here. Oh, there we go.
Are there any plans to extend paving of Edwin Road all the way over to Lago del Oro?
Mr. Ortiz, I think that's you again.
Oh, on the other side.
Yeah, from the end of the chip seal.
There's always been talk of off and on. That there's a development, I forget the name of the development, that's been off and on for the last 10 years. And they just haven't been able to get off the ground. Part of the problem is that road is actually, well, it should be split 50-50 with Pima County, Pinal County, and Pima County really doesn't have any interest of making those improvements. So that's where the big challenge comes from.
There's also state trust land at the end of the chip seal.
Correct. State trust land would have to be acquired as well.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Ed Brogan. Just a question on the water. The plans about growth sound fabulous. Do we have water sources?
Mr. Billington.
Water's a hot topic in Arizona. I mean, you read the Tucson paper and our paper to the north in Maricopa County, and water is an ongoing topic. I would say, first of all, our governor, most recently in her State of the State speech, one of her primary topics to address was water. I just sat in a meeting last week, and we've been told that there's more to come, in that she set up a water blue ribbon committee or task force last year. They're running multiple pieces of legislation on the water issue. Apparently there's a bunch of stuff that's going to hit the legislature this year in terms of new ways to look at water. We have a situation in Pinal County where we're split between two different active management areas, and they have different rules. We have the Pinal AMA and we have the Phoenix AMA. They both have their own unique challenges and different ways of handling the water situation. In Phoenix, they have a safe yield program. We do not have that in Pinal County, but the county is working very hard. We have a water resource manager at the county, and we have a Board of Supervisor member who is not only on the CAP board, but is very involved in water in the state of Arizona. So I would say stay tuned to the legislative session and stay tuned to more information with respect to Pinal County in the forthcoming year.
And this is the Tucson AMA here, active management area. So you're fine on water here, according to them. Just say it. Any other questions? Yes, oh, in the back.
I believe on one of the slides you showed there was mention of community development applications, and in the lower right-hand corner in bold print it said SaddleBrooke Ranch. Can you explain what that's about?
Absolutely. So when Pinal County updated its zoning ordinance in 2012, it included a couple of new categories on how to handle zoning. Traditionally in the U.S. and certainly for most of Arizona, we use a concept called Euclidean zoning. Euclidean zoning is specific to use, so parcels are residential or they are commercial or they are industrial or they are agricultural, and that's to keep uses that can collaborate between one another together, and those that don't fit in with those uses, like industrial next to residential, to separate those for health, safety, and welfare reasons. Those two new zoning categories, one's for commercial projects and one of them is for mixed-use residential projects, adopt something that is a more modern term called form-based zoning. And the intention of form-based zoning is, instead of hard and fast rules, it is how do we intermix or interface different types of uses to make the best use of that land, and to try and help create a community whereby schools and commercial and jobs can be spread throughout the residential community that's more difficult if you're using Euclidean rules. What we're working on with SaddleBrooke Ranch right now is a concept for zoning of the next phase of that project that is more form-based in nature. It's also the same way that state land is handling their zoning entitlements nowadays, which is you determine a density, amount of usable open space and open space to be required, number of jobs potentially be created, acreages of commercial and or floor area ratios, size of buildings. Instead of those being hard and fast within that boundary, they essentially are populated in a table, and those uses and densities can be moved throughout that area to make something that's more cooperative in nature in terms of that development. We're working with ropes and communities on that concept at this time. This will be the first of its kind and type in Pinal County. I hope that answered your question.
Supervisor, if I can jump in real quick, I'm going to put Doug on the spot. I think it's important that sometimes we see how big our county is. I mean, we're roughly the size of the state of Connecticut. Like, if you look on a map, our county is literally that size. But only a small fraction of our land is actually available for private ownership. So we're in a unique situation where we have to make the most of everything that's there. That's why we have to have the flexibility. And Mr. Assessor, what is the percentage?
About 17% of Pinal County is private land.
So 83% federal trust land, state trust land, reservation land, but something that we can't derive any sort of tax revenue from or actually have in private ownership hands. which is why it's so important that we be flexible and be leading. So sometimes I think it's easy, we had the young lady saying that she drove all the way up 10 and she does the back ways. I mean, it feels like you're driving for days before you can get out of this county, and why is it such at a premium? It's because we actually don't have access to most of the land that you see.
Hey, we have time for one or two more questions. Right there. Yeah, we send them down. There's probably 12 or 15 in the Catalina area. There's some up in Oracle I'm aware of. Tomorrow is the homeless count, and we'll know more tomorrow about what's going. We don't have a big problem. We do have some homeless people, yes.
By and large, it's usually our pit. That's what they call it. It's the point in time. So literally, the county has to go out and find every homeless person that we can. We go to any of the washes that they may live in or different areas, and we basically have to find them and say, are you homeless? And then we have to report that number. It happens all across the state in every county. That pit count, that's the homeless count, that's being done tomorrow. It's typically between about 150 and 200. The largest area that we're now starting to see homeless is congregating up in the Apache Junction area, and if Supervisor Surdy were here, he'd be stomping his foot, throwing a fit, because what they do is they just go back and forth between state and federal land, and then they go to the bathroom there, they throw trash on the ground, and what we're seeing is we don't see the homeless populations congregate in our municipalities nearly as much. They tend to go out and they sort of camp in the desert regions. That's where the vast majority tend to be.
One last question. But right here.
With the projected growth in the county, is there a forward-thinking panel about health care in the county?
Why are you guys looking at me? Leo, you can jump in. I'll tell you.
You're not the head of this.
One of the weird things about Pinal County is when I first moved here 17 years ago, they called us the donut. Because what happens is when they look at healthcare, access to healthcare, they look at it within a certain mile. So typically it's a 30-mile band or a 30-mile range. So what happens is when you look at all of our population can get to Pima County in the Tucson metro area or Phoenix in the Phoenix metro area to get out of that. So there ends up being this sort of hole in the middle, and that's why they call it a donut effect, where we don't have a ton of resources. I can tell you that there are a lot of committees that are working on bringing those resources in. Because of some of our growth, we're in this weird spot right now where we're too big to be small for federal grants, and we're too small to always qualify for some of the big ones. But we're working with a lot of our local providers to start trying to get those services local. Because, I mean, if any of you have ever experienced anybody with mental health issues, good luck getting them to drive 35 or 40 minutes to go get services. So we are doing everything we can to bring them in. We also have a reentry center that I know our sheriff's office is not here, but the county manager, actually Kathy is one of our, assistant county manager is one of our chairs along with myself on our reentry program, where we're really focusing on trying to help people reintegrate into our community, make sure they have those resources there. So I don't know that there's a set committee that's designing it, but it touches so many different areas that it is a constant conversation that at least I know I have on about a 2 or 3 times a week basis at least.
So like I said, he's an attorney that likes to talk. You know.
Guilty as charged.
I could just add a little bit, a resource where if you want to go to our public health website, we do have a stakeholder group that does what we call the CHA, the Community Health Assessment. And then that same team, it's all the providers and all the people in the industry, and our public health department helps to lead. And then they come up with we call it a CHIP, a community health integrated plan. And so they do get together, and it's an ongoing basis. So if you want to know more about that, ma'am, if you want to look at that on our public health district website, you could see how to get involved with the CHA and the CHIP.
All right. Well, thank you all for coming out. I want to thank everybody here on the team, taking time out of their busy day to come out, and this is great. Thank you for having us, and see you next year.